Hello and welcome back to another Things on My Mind video. Today officially makes it 1 week that I've been posting consistently. My goal is 30 days, so hopefully we can get there. But I wanted to kind of continue the conversation that I was talking about yesterday, just about kind of my friendship wounds, a lot stemming from childhood, and how they kind of affect me today and how I'm still kind of working my way through relationships with other people and I don't know, figuring out what's working for me. So, yeah, I mentioned yesterday that I kind of just have like this friendship wound where I feel like I'm maybe like the outsider in the group. It feels like I'm never one of the core members of the group. Like I'm never involved in the group chat. I actually just started my first group chat with a group of girls like last year. The end of last year, I got close with a couple girls, and that's my first group chat. So I at least made it before 30, but it definitely took me a while to kind of get into a closer friendship. And I think that is just because of how much I have kind of been holding myself back and just hiding myself from opening up to other people. Really, the biggest thing has just been fear of getting hurt or fear of being disappointed. Like I mentioned, I had a couple friends who kind of, I don't want to say did me dirty. It was like during college, we were definitely still kind of growing and learning how to be adults. And it just didn't work out. And I felt like I was done dirty. One of them ghosted me. But that to say, I think it's just that whenever I find a friend and I kind of like latch onto them and think like, oh, this is going to be like my BFF or a really good friend. Sometimes I think I might get too invested into the friendship. And then in turn, when they don't feel the same way or they don't appreciate the friendship maybe as much as I do, then I feel kind of let down. And I feel like, well, why should I even try to be friends with people when they don't put in the same effort as me or they don't really care as much or, they already have their core group of friends. So especially as an adult, I think it's really hard to make new friends and to make friends that you feel close to because a lot of people have already had their established friend groups. Some people have known each other since childhood or went to college together. By this time, like I'm almost 30, people have already been in each other's weddings. And I know that was a big thing when Kevin and I were talking about getting married one day and all these things. It was like he had so many friends and I only had like a couple to pick from for like bridesmaids and groomsmen. So he would have like, I don't know, 8 to 10 people. And I'm here with like my sister. So yeah, I have never really been the person who has had a big group of friends or even like close friends. And I know sometimes people will say like, oh, that's a red flag if a girl doesn't have very many girlfriends, which I think can be true. Like you need to take it situation by situation because sometimes if somebody does have a pattern of kind of like having friendships and then they fall off, that might be because of them and because their either communication style isn't the best or I don't know, something like that. So, but on the other hand, I feel like for myself and for a lot of people out there, it's like that we don't have a lot of friends because we just really haven't put ourselves out there enough to make those types of relationships. So don't judge all of us, but I definitely can see that it can be true for some people. I have noticed whenever I am making a new friend, I definitely do get really excited and I almost love bomb and I don't try to do this, but it feels like I want them to know that I want to be their friend and I want them to know that I'm a good friend. I try to, just be really accommodating and make myself available for them and just be really like communicative. And sometimes I can be in that feeling and when they don't maybe reciprocate it the same way that I do, I can kind of like pull myself back and think like, oh, I'm being kind of a weirdo. I shouldn't put too much into a friendship. But I'm finding that that's just kind of the type of person I am. I'm really invested into the relationships I have and I like to do things for my friends and I like to be there for them. And even if it's not reciprocated the same way, it doesn't mean that it was a worthless amount of time that I spent trying to build a relationship. It kind of just shows me that one, it's kind of giving me practice for the next friendship. And two, it's kind of showing me maybe what types of people work with me and what types of people don't. So yeah, I have definitely been kind of navigating friendship a lot these past couple of years. I remember there was a time, maybe like 2 years ago, where I was just ranting to Kevin and crying in bed about how I really don't have that many friends. And every time I try to make a new friend, it feels like they do me dirty or they take advantage of my kindness or my like openness. Now, looking back to Amanda from those 2 years ago when I was crying in bed, I can feel a little bit more confident that I have made the effort to make a little bit of stronger friendships and find new people to be friends with. But I'm still working on it. I still feel her inside me a little bit to this day. But yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to being like the outsider friend or the friend that's not picked first. That is probably my biggest wound, is being the friend that nobody really cares about or doesn't really need to be there. And I think that's almost worse than not being invited or not being part of the friend group at all, because it just always feels like there's like a level of like I'm separated from them somehow in some way, where I crave that feeling of connection and I crave belonging. And sometimes I feel like maybe it would be better to have friends that are just all out or all in instead of, kind of half in and kind of half out. But I know that's a thing that I had been struggling with for a while, was kind of thinking that friendships need to be all or nothing. Like if I am starting a friendship with, if I'm starting a friendship with someone, that means that they need to be my best friend. They need to know about my whole life and be involved in everything. But that's not true. And I'm finding more and more that I am being okay with having certain friendships be for certain reasons. So maybe some friends, like, I have a better time when we're just hanging out and we're like partying. Or some other friends, I have a better time when we're like talking about like growing ourselves and personal development, and kind of like motivating each other to be better. But just because somebody doesn't have both of those things doesn't mean that they are not meant to be in my life or there's not a place in my life for them. And then I think I also kind of was really black and white as far as like morals and what people believe. I had been really strong in my convictions about just like people should have their rights and everybody deserves to love and all these things like that. And it's kind of really hard for me to see somebody have a differing opinion. I know it's always been hard for me to see someone with maybe a different opinion and try to separate them from that and kind of realize that one part of somebody doesn't make that their whole. So like if I have a certain belief, that doesn't make that all of me, if that makes sense. And I know there are certain things like that I will not tolerate, like just being generally shitty to people or believing certain groups are better than others. And, I feel like obvious things like that. But I think that I am kind of growing and giving people a little bit more grace to grow too, because just because we had certain beliefs when we were younger or even a few years ago doesn't mean that we can't learn from that and grow and kind of change our opinion. So I feel like I am giving people space to grow and not kind of just look at them the same way that I always have viewed them. Now I'm kind of trying to take their actions a little bit more seriously than words or previous actions. So if someone did me dirty like 5 years ago and they're trying to make up for it, I definitely am trying to give them grace to have that space to grow. But with that being said, I think maybe I give people a little bit too much grace and a little bit too much room to grow sometimes, and they can kind of take advantage of it and take their sweet time growing and still treat me badly. And because I believe in them maybe more than they believe in themselves to be a good person, I will keep them around a little bit longer than I should, just because I feel guilty maybe about ending a relationship that had lasted for so long, or dropping a friend because I feel vibes from them and not because they have done anything to me, which I think is a whole different topic. There are definitely people in our lives who can present themselves like they want the best for us and they want us to succeed, but secretly they're plotting on our downfall. And I think that's because people are scared of change. People don't want to change, and that means that they don't really want you to change. They don't want the relationship to change. And so instead of seeing you grow, they'd rather kind of keep you in that little bubble that they've had you in and just keep things the same. And most of the time it's a reflection of them and not you. But it's so interesting to me how we can always have these different perspectives. Like I'll have one side to a story and someone will have a different side to the story. And to a third party, they both might sound accurate and they both might sound valid. But just like the way that two different sides can perceive a situation can be a lot different. So one person might be thinking that the other person is plotting on their downfall while they're trying to succeed, while the other person thinks the same thing about the other person. So I don't know. I don't know. I really have just been trying to focus on keeping the relationships around me that are just positive and uplifting, and kind of not stay away, but kind of take myself back and kind of reevaluate the reason that I maybe have people in my life. And if it's only for like superficial reasons, like partying or having fun, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think we all need a group of girls that we can go out to the club and get drunk and have fun with. But sometimes maybe we need more than that. And just because we can't get that from that group of friends doesn't mean that they're, not good friends, or it doesn't mean that they're not worth having a friendship with. I think maybe just adding on friends who do have maybe more of the same mindset as you or are kind of on the same direction as you can help balance that. But I think sometimes I might feel guilty if I feel like I am prioritizing myself instead of my friends. Like if they're only free on a certain couple of days and I'm free, but I don't really feel like doing anything, I might, cater to them a little bit more. So I feel like I should kind of take one for the team in a way, but I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. I also know that I am a really bad person when it comes to texting and kind of keeping in touch with people. And that's something that I've been trying to work on, is just like, even if I don't text people all the time, and I want to be better about reaching out to people to actually make time to hang out or just check in on each other. I've never been the type of friend to like randomly call my friends and see how they're doing. I feel like I'm kind of awkward on the phone, and sometimes I don't really know what to talk about. So, yeah, that's kind of scary for me. I'd rather hang out with somebody in person so I can see them face to face and have that back and forth. But I think that's maybe because I haven't really gotten close with too many people, because when I'm talking on the phone with my sister, I feel totally fine and I can be myself. But when I'm talking on the phone with like a friend, even if they're close to me, I feel kind of awkward, and I feel like, I don't know. I don't know. But I am trying to get closer friendships this year and just have more fulfilling friendships, I guess, because fulfilling friendships, or get friendships that fulfill the needs that I have. So, I definitely do think I have a group of friends that I can have fun with and we can be real with each other. But I think that I am looking for people more like me, because I do have a lot of friends that have kids and I'm not at that point yet in my life. So there can kind of be like a gap in how we understand our day-to-days, because definitely being child-free versus having kids is a very different way to live your life, just in terms of what you're doing every day, what your priorities are, and like how much free time you have. So I'm trying to find more friends that are like my age, but they still don't have kids yet, because that can be kind of hard to balance a friendship around when babysitters are available, or the dad is home. But I do want to say that I really appreciate all of the people in my life. I think they're all there for a reason, whether that be to teach me something to grow, or just be there so that I can have fun with, or to motivate me to work harder and just think more. Yeah, all of my friends I have in my life for a reason, and I finding that it's okay that each friend doesn't check all of my boxes. That doesn't mean that they're not valuable or special to me. So I don't really know if this kind of made sense. I was kind of all over the place, and we are needing to leave right now because we're going to go watch the FIFA finals. So that's really all I have to say about friendship today. If you also feel like you have been kind of the floater friend or like the extra friend and you're working on that, let me know how that's going for you and what has worked. I have a few things written down in my notes, but it's kind of like really random trains of thought that don't really lead anywhere. So it might just end up being 30 days of yapping for no reason. And that's okay. I did kind of find myself like putting a bit more pressure on these videos and putting a bit more pressure to have something inspirational to talk about, or something like philosophical that I thought about that's like something new and interesting for people to listen to. But I kind of forgot that the reason that I'm doing these videos is for myself. It's to practice like talking on camera and having these trains of thoughts, thinking about things, and just showing up for myself and for my channel like I say I'm going to. So as long as I show up, it doesn't really matter if I make sense, but I'm hoping to try to just gradually, naturally make more sense the more that I'm doing this, because it's getting a little bit easier. But yeah, I don't know, another ramble. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I will see you in the next one. Bye.